Happy 2012, everyone. I have an email here from a man called Marcus, and he said, "Dear Graham, I'm very happy to have come across your videos on YouTube. It appears to me that we are very much alike in certain aspects of our personalities and the way in which we conceive life. If you like to share your experiences with Jesus and explain the impact of it, that would be really nice. Would you agree that one of the purposes of satsang, and for those of you who may not know, satsang is a Hindu word, it means company of truth. Would you agree that one of the purposes of satsang is to remove the so-called obstacles that prevent a clear recognition of the truth, so that those who get it can pass it on and share satsang themselves? I am very aware of the fact that language is misguiding, and that actually getting it means to notice that which lays beyond anyone who could get anything. So saying that language is misguiding and actually getting it means to notice that which lies beyond language, that which language points to. How was it in your case? Did you just start sharing as you felt that it's the right thing to do? Or did you kind of push yourself because you knew it needed some push to get going? So a few questions before I complete the email. The first question is, would you agree that one of the purposes of satsang is to remove the so-called obstacles that prevent a clear recognition of the truth, so those who get it can pass it on and share satsang themselves? If we go right back, because you mentioned Jesus, if we go right back 2,000 or so years ago, the satsang, to use that term, which is where two or three come together in His name, or truth's name. In Christianity it was in the name of Jesus. The people who shared that satsang did so under hostile conditions, and so they met in houses. The church is the body of believers. The church is the house in which that is one's body. Or it is the house in which people met, now known as house churches. So they would meet quietly and share the good news. And if you were to share the good news more publicly, you could, or indeed many were, executed for it. Because this wasn't the type of news that the worldlings those who already had their own established beliefs wanted to hear. It was a kind of truth that gets you killed, which is why Jesus was killed, which is why the early disciples were executed, physically killed in one form or another. When we speak of satsang these days, it seems to be more an entertaining occupation, more entertaining possibility, a fun thing to do. But as you mentioned to Christ, I thought I'd bring in the alternative view. Let me just refer back to my email. So, satsang. So those who get it can pass it on and share satsang themselves. Well, this is how it works, isn't it? Those who hear the good news, who feel in their heart the blossoming of that goodness, want to share it, because they want others to also know this goodness. And how was it? And I'm very aware of the fact that language is misguiding, or can be certainly misguiding. And how actually getting it means to notice that which lies beyond just to use my words here, beyond words, of course. And when I speak of Christianity, for me, I'm not speaking about a belief system, about something that I've grown up in, and I'm speaking about an actual realization through grace, which had nothing to do with me. So how was it in your case? Well, in my case, when I was 40 and I realized Christ through grace, that is Jesus, and I realized some of you might object to that, but you might want to just perhaps put aside your objections just for a moment and perhaps be a little open-minded, and perhaps many of you are, which is why you subscribe to this channel anyway. But I know after teaching for a long time now that sometimes, or many times, when people just hear the word Jesus, they close off. That's it. I don't want to know. I'm not having you forcing your belief systems down my throat. First of all, from my point of view here, I'm not talking about a belief. I'm talking about something which is so way beyond belief. So how was it with me? Well, when you're in heaven and you see people suffering needlessly, when you're in that peace that passes all understanding, and that wonderful joy of His presence, that incomparable light and love that He is, naturally one wants to share it, so that one can convert people, and you just want to share it so that they can experience that beauty themselves, so that they can be moved from fear and worry and doubt, and know that also. So for me it came from a very innocent, because I was truly born again, so it's like being a child. And one is very childlike. I can remember being in a pub with two friends, and they were talking about stuff, and all of a sudden I mentioned Jesus. and they kind of looked at me and then carried on with the conversation that they were having, as though it just doesn't compute. And it was though I was just completely ignored, well, absolutely completely ignored. And you have quite astonishing reactions, and I can kind of understand that. Now, if this thing has truly happened to you, if this awakening has truly happened, then people closest to you will know it. At work, in the health hydro, there's a therapist there who is an osteopath, and he's known as a therapist who works at quite subtle levels, who works energetically. He feels he's moved beyond the kind of traditional osteopathic approach to more subtle energy work. And I was sitting in my room, and there was a knock on the door, and this was this man. And he's never knocked on my door prior to that, and he hasn't knocked on my door since. And I opened the door, very surprised to see him. I said, "Hi." And he said, "Graham, what's happened to you? Your whole energy has changed." And I told him that I've been born again, I've experienced Jesus, I know Jesus. People close to you will see it and know it. And you might find that, perhaps you've already found this, if this has occurred to you, that people also can get quite hostile. And friends might get very jealous. There was one Christian lady I knew, and she witnessed my immersion in Eastern teachings for most of my life, and when I then started speaking about Jesus, she came, there was this movement in her. It was as though she was about to hit me. And there can be all these energetic reactions, which is kind of interesting. So how was it for me? I just shared naturally, and by degrees doors were just closing. Some people were intrigued and kind of, "Oh, this is quite interesting." Others were, "How do you know it was Jesus?" And it was very interesting that they didn't doubt that something had happened, but it was like, "Well, why do you say Jesus?" You know, it was almost as if you can say anything else, but you don't say that. And the problem with spiritual realization comes with all sorts of problems when you try to share it with the world. The impossibility of that is that, you know, worldlings are worldlings because they don't want